But, you can find excitement in a lot of different places, and I can promise you that around Furman right now there's a ton of excitement. Joining us here on site is the new head football coach of the Furman Paladins, Clay Hendrix. Just happened to catch him at a time when he had a few minutes to join us up here. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Have you settled in at all?
Not really.
That's not in your vocabulary yet, is it?
Well, when I got the job, we had just begun a dead period, and our kids had already left.
Right.
Had already had exams and left. So actually just met the team for the first time Monday and tried to be involved in weight classes and those things this week, getting to know those guys a little bit. Been trying to hire staff. Was back in Colorado, did the bowl game with the academy. So it has not stopped. It's been good. And as I've always heard as a head coach, every day something pops up that you weren't sure you're going to have to deal with that, but you are. So, but it's been good. We're staying busy and trying to, really get busy this week when recruiting opens back up. We've got a good number of kids coming in this weekend for our first official visit. So I think, number one, it's been trying to hire staff and then trying to sign a really good class here and doing both. And being a little shorthanded.
Yes, yeah. You're finding out the old phrase, be careful what you ask for.
That's true.
You wanted to be a head coach, and now all the stuff that goes along with it. But I know that this is a dream of yours, and I'm just incredibly excited for you to have the opportunity here. And I think I mentioned this to you when we had a chance to talk on the phone the day of your press conference. But in the weeks and days leading up to your hiring, every single Furman person that I talked to said, I hope Clay Hendrix gets the job. I hope Clay Hendrix gets the job. You seem to have an overwhelming amount of support among the Furman fan base.
Well, I certainly had a lot of people reach out to me. We were here a long, long time, made a lot of great friends, had a lot of success. And I think timing, the timing of the whole opportunity was good. I know for me and my family, and I'm one of those people that I guess I get knocked for it. It hadn't just been an everyday dream of mine to be a head coach, and I always felt like if it was the right situation, where you had support, you're at a really good place. The two places I've coached, I've coached true student athletes, and I've really enjoyed that. The qualities that come usually with those kids. And then certainly a place that we had great love for, lived here in the community. We have missed the upstate. We've missed South Carolina. We've missed the people of South Carolina. So I think a little bit of all of that.
This is, as our high-tech graphics people are telling us, Clay Hendrix, Furman's new football coach, joining us here on set. The dual priorities you mentioned a moment ago, getting your staff hired and getting the recruiting class in shape. Let's start with the staff. Yesterday, it was announced officially you've hired Chad Staggs as your defensive coordinator. Good young defensive coordinator. I believe Charleston Southern was 7th in the country in total defense in FCS last year. Tell me what was appealing about him and why he's a good fit for your staff and your personality.
Well, I've probably met Chad a number of years ago just on the road recruiting. We'd run into each other occasionally. I was always impressed by him just personally. And, as a coach, you're always observing who's doing a really good job. In Charleston Southern had quite a number of games against Southern Conference people. And I think just noticing the job they've done. They even came out, I think, a couple of years ago to Boulder, played Colorado. But just watching the job they had done, I think I know people that have appealed to me is, who has done maybe more with less. I don't think that's the easiest job, they've had down there, with some restrictions and facilities and different things. And just to watch what they had done, with what they have. He's an upstate guy, South Carolina guy. In fact, I think Jimmy Satterfield gave him his first job at Lexington. Well, Jimmy Satterfield gave me my first job. And, when you ask around people that you have great respect for, Coach Satterfield, Bobby Johnson, who I know had had a chance to spend some time with him in practice. And, you try to do your background work and ask people that you trust. And I never heard anything negative, and then it was a matter of could we get him here? And so that has been a big piece of the puzzle. And it was just trying to really be patient and do due diligence and get the right people. And, I think for the most, it's gone really well. Got a few more spots to still fill, but at least I feel like now we can hit the ground running this coming week when it really opens up.
Right.
Recruiting for the rest of the month. But.
Yeah, you told me down in the lobby last Wednesday, I think it was, that you wanted to hire your defensive staff from the top down. So now that you've got Chad in place, the rest of those pieces should fall relatively quickly, I would think.
The should make an announcement today for another hire. So really right now we have, I guess, 4 on the offensive side, 3 on the defensive side. Probably another one early next week, and then so we're getting there. And again, it's just and I wanted Chad to certainly be involved in some of those other hires, just as I've done with Drew and George Quarles on the offensive side. So it has gone really well. I think just now it's a matter of I think we have enough of a staff in place to really go hard with the recruiting part. We were behind the 8 ball a little bit in recruiting. Really only had a couple of guys on the road in December, and Brian and Dwayne Vaughn have done a phenomenal job just kind of holding things together until we could get a head coach and get some other coaches in place. And so now I think there's no reason for us to hold anything back now going forward.
What size class should you have, and realistically, what size class do you think you'll have when signing day comes in early February?
In FCS football, you can have 63 scholarship kids, equivalents. I don't know, probably ideally somewhere in the 18 to 20 range. The numbers can change a little bit based on other things.
Right.
And I think we can be pretty close to that. What I didn't want to do is just take a guy to be taking a guy, because we have to have a tackle, If we find a tackle we really like, yes. And so whether we can fill all those spots this year with who we want, that remains to be seen.
But you're not afraid to hold back a spot for next year?
No, not at all. So, so that's kind of our thought process going in.
Yeah, because if you think about it, and I know we have a lot of fans that follow recruiting, and this is a big question. When anytime you have a coaching change and a staff coming in late like this in the recruiting period, what kind of first-year recruiting class can they put together? But if you take somebody just to take somebody who's not and ultimately a good fit for this team, then that handicaps you for 4 years in that spot.
It does. One thing at the academy, the academy was all about numbers. That was your one advantage. You could take more and more kids. We don't have that luxury here,
right.
So you just got to be a little more precise. And as you know, recruiting is not a science. And you try to think you hit on every kid, but that's not going to happen. But I think if you do the work, on the front end, you'll have a lot better chance of success. With that going forward, really. And, the biggest concern I had, people ask me, what's your biggest concern? I just didn't know much about our roster. Mm-hmm. And I really still don't know. I know a lot more than I did. I've been able to see kids work in the weight room and those kinds of things. I've kind of purposely tried not to watch a lot of tape. We look at our depth chart where it is, and certainly people that were here, I've been able to ask, where are we thinnest at, those type things. But just really not knowing enough about our team just as football players, mm-hmm. It's probably the biggest challenge we have.
Well, this is Clay Hendrix, the new head football coach. How did that first team meeting go on Monday?
It went well. They were bright-eyed, enthusiastic, look in the eyes kind of group, and mm-hmm. Which I think newness is good for everybody. I think the biggest thing I tried to emphasize to them was fresh start for everybody, and that was one of the things I tried to tell them. I hadn't watched a lot of tape. I'll make my judgments based on what I see going forward. How you work in the off season, and do you take care of business in mm-hmm. the classroom, and Are you a low maintenance guy
Right.
that just comes to work every day?
In your opinion, is that an unusual approach? Because this is my non-football coach logic applying here. It would seem to me that one of the best ways to get to know your personnel would be to watch existing film on them. So is that an unusual approach for a coach to take?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I felt, I look at the board where we have guys at positions, and I took some advice from a couple of guys that were on staff, and just tell me where we are at this position. So
right.
I think I have a little bit of a feel, but you still have to feel your needs, and so maybe a little bit. Because, we'll take probably a little bit of everything. I know there will be a couple of positions. We'll take a few more guys.
Yeah.
There'll probably be a couple more of those guys are in the athlete category, thinking, this kid's a quarterback in high school, but God, he can play something.
Right.
So maybe a little bit more of that approach.
Well, there's a coach right down the road here who does things somewhat unusually from a traditional head coaching standpoint. He just won a national championship.
No doubt, no doubt. I think you can, and golly, what a great thing for them. And Robbie Caldwell, who I played for, and I've been a big fan of theirs, just how they operate.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think he's a guy, and I don't know him particularly well, but he is a guy that's done things the way he wanted to do them. And I think some of the best advice I've gotten from some people is do it your way, do what you think's best. And I mean, he's the perfect example of that. I mean, really, both those guys in that game, when you think about it, Coach Saban does the things his way, and
they're kind of polar opposites of one another, and yet they were.
But I think they have a lot of similarities too. I really do, even though it's a lot different. So it was a fun game to watch.
Yeah. Normally you would ask this question after maybe a spring practice or after a half of a season or something like that. But have you learned things about yourself in just a few weeks as a head coach already that maybe you did not know before?
Well, maybe a few things. Hire good people. And let them do their jobs. But I think one of the biggest things I've tried to learn is. And being at the academy, I hope I learned some of this just about leadership, and it's trying to make things better for others
right
within your organization. And if it's down the road and I can make things better for my coaches and their families and our players, trying to make things better for them around here. But no, I think the big thing, just hire good people, take your time, be patient. It's a little bit like you talked about the roster. I think the roster is what it is. Trying to be as positive as you can be, yet still be demanding. Pay attention to details, and ask the tough questions, especially in the recruiting aspect.
Right.
When you walk into that school 2 years later, and the coach, some assistant over there says, the kid has left, and he goes, Coach, I knew that kid he wasn't going to make it. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that 2 years ago?
Right.
And that's probably on me, for not asking. So. But I think it's just don't overreact. It's kind of, as I've told my players, it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems, and just keep day by day work, and just getting everybody 100% committed to our program.
All I know about this new offense is what I've talked to you. I've talked to Drew. I've not yet had a chance to talk to George Quarles, but I know quite a bit about him and what he accomplished at Maryville. Anytime you go from 1999 forward and you have more state championships and you do losses, you're doing something right as a head coach. But this is going to be a completely new foreign concept for Furman players and fans. You're going to be throwing an awful lot at these offensive players. I get the idea here.
Well, we will. It'll be new. It'll be different. Hopefully it'll be exciting for them. And exactly what it's going to look like, I don't know. A lot of that's going to be personnel driven, but I know the core beliefs will be the same. We're going to be able to run the football in a variety of ways. Multi-formational. I think trying to be a hard to prepare for team. One of the things I talked to Chad about, I think he had heard we were going to be this go fast team, which is not always good for the defensive side of the ball. Now, I think, we'll try to be a team that plays with tempo. But I mean, we want to recruit really good receivers and quarterbacks that can throw the football and running backs. And, and if you look at all three of our track record, I know at the Academy, I think our kid ended up leading the country in yards per catch. If you can run the ball, you can throw it, and we'll work really hard at both. I think one of the things we want to do is give our defense every chance to be successful. And that's having the ability to prepare them, both in the run game and the throw game.
Right.
And do enough option stuff that, in this league right now, you better beat a couple of good option teams. If you want to win a conference championship, you're going to have to beat a couple of good ones. Mm-hmm. So I think helping our defense prepare for that. That was one of the things that really stood out to me with Chad. He had a really good record against those kinds of teams.
Right.
Which I think says a lot about the coach.
Well, I mean, they beat the Citadel 3 times.
Which says a lot about the coach, and so I think it's kind of all those factors, kind of figure in there. But, I'm kind of looking forward to, we've got to finish really well in recruiting, and the football part's kind of taking a back seat.
Right.
And I could see, the signing date week, which is a dead period, that'll be a heavy football week, so just to get in there and to hash it out. I think by then maybe we'll know our players a little better.
Right.
Because we've got 75-ish players in the spring, which is not very many.
Yeah.
That's a lot less than I'm used to. So just,
no JV team here.
Planning
Furman, right?
and just the way you practice.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit different than how I've been. That's one reason I've wanted to hire some guys that had been in similar situations that we're in now.
Yeah.
Final thing, just what will the next, we got 3 weeks or so before signing day. What will these next 3 weeks look like from a recruiting standpoint? It's going to be an all-out blitz, everybody on the road, or what's the game plan right now?
Yeah, we've got, I don't know, 15 kids coming in this weekend. Probably we'll have kids the next 2 weekends as well. How many, I don't know. I do think we have our targets. I don't think we're out doing a lot of looking. I think we had guys that we had identified. But no, we'll spend the next couple of weeks, on the road. I think we'll hit the road Sunday with, our probably 7 or so guys that we have, which I think we can get covered what we need to get covered. But it'll be all recruiting from here on out.
Yeah.
There won't be a lot of football talk other than, a little bit recruiting. Yesterday I was sitting there trying to get a tentative spring practice plan, just laid out based on our calendar, spring break. So those are some of those things we've talked about.
Right.
And even looking ahead as far as recruiting areas, with the new staff going forward. Where's this guy going?
Right.
Where's his primary area going to be? So.
Well, you can cover a lot more ground with 7 than you were with 2.
No doubt. Those 2 guys, I tell you what, they did a phenomenal job. I was talking to them, and Brian Bratton one day he's in Raleigh, and the next 4 hours later I call him, he's in Charleston, and he's just all over the place.
Right.
And they did a great job. Just keeping that core group of kids together. Most of those kids will probably be coming in this weekend.
That's good. That's good. You always wonder when a new coach is coming in, will there be any staff holdover? And I think you kept 2 good ones.
I agree.
I think you kept 2 good ones. Clay, thank you, buddy. We
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
And I know you got a lot going on. I appreciate your time. That's Clay Hendrix, the new football coach here at Furman. We'll step out for a break, come back, and close out the show with a final segment right after this. Dan Scott Show continues in just a moment.